Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 108 of the Weird, Wacky and Wonderful Stories podcast. Totally forgot it for a minute.
At least you didn't forget the name of it.
I know, yeah, I know, tell me about it. But I got a thing with numbers recently, I don't know what's going on. But listen, thank you very much to David Pettibone before we start the show. Thank you very much for donating once again to our Buy Me a Coffee campaign. It should be called Buy Us a Coffee campaign, but it's Buy Me a Coffee campaign, even though it goes to us. So thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Again, you are one in a million. Thank you very much indeed. So we have got lots to get on with today. Later on, we've got Ruth Roper Wylde. She'll be coming along with her monthly report, and she will be talking to us about some really interesting investigations that she's been doing recently on her travels at different locations. And she gets her dog involved in this as well. And I don't know if you remember, well, I know you remember because you were as kind of on the edge about it as me. She submitted her report to us, and she built the story up, and we were like, come on, let's find out what happens. And then all of a sudden,
It was like
nothing. Nothing. She just left us on a total cliffhanger, and the video stopped. And I'm messaging her, and I'm going, Ruth, you got to finish off the story. You got to let me know what happened. And she's like, I'm away. I'll do it in a couple of days. And I'm like, I need to know. So she sent us the second file, so you're going to see a change in her clothes. She's not magic. But there will be a slight. I'll leave it in so you can see exactly where we got kind of held up. I'll leave like a second or so break, and then you'll see her come on in her new clothing, telling us exactly what it was that happened at the end of the story, but really, really fascinating. We've also got Richard Lennie popping along, and he actually talks about another missing person situation that happened recently in the UK. Could well be classed as one of the so-called missing 411 missing person cases, maybe. Have a listen to it and decide for yourself. Interesting one, this. That's Richard Lennie later on at the end of the show, as you know. But before then, we got lots of different things to talk about, haven't we?
Yeah.
Not least you sporting your new hairstyle.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, very good.
Non-COVID hair now.
You have gone from the point of, oh, I've got some grey, to, fuck it, let's just go silver. I'm new. It's like, I'm new. I've embraced my grey, but I did shave my head the other day again with my my beard trimmer. I need to do this next.
I know, the hair on your face is longer.
There wasn't any battery left after I'd done the rest of it. Okay, so let's go on. We got a couple of different things to cover today. This is kind of like weird news and everything that's gone on again, but there's some really interesting talking points. Don't know why I got a pen in my hand. Some really interesting talking points. Do you remember a little while ago you were talking about if people go up in space, then how long do they quarantine for?
Yeah.
What level of quarantine are they actually, sort of given? And could they still be bringing back viruses that maybe we're not aware of and all that sort of stuff?
That would be messed up if they actually determined that coronavirus came from space or something.
Yeah, like monkeys from space.
Well, there was a monkey in space.
You know, like Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
It's like they came down here. Well, they must have come down here for the filming. When they did the movie. So, they probably brought it. Terrible. Honestly, that's what happens if you shag a monkey. I've said many, many times, just stay away from them. Just, or was it a bat that shagged a monkey? I can't remember.
I don't know,
in this
but
case.
are you talking from experience or?
No. I mean,
Before me, of course.
I was gonna maybe tie it into you.
Yeah,
but
I saw your gears.
They were working. They were trying. No, do you know 28 new viruses have been found in a glacier that was.
I heard about this.
This was in China. on the Tibetan Plateau in Western China, in fact. And they actually identified 33 viral genomes in total, and at least 20 of them are novel, they said. Novel, I guess, means new, does it? Yeah, okay. See, novel, I thought novel meant, it's kind of like, oh, no, it is kind of like rare, isn't it? It's kind of, if something's novel, it's, yeah, okay, I'll shut up.
Good.
4 of the known viruses have been found to infect bacteria. But they say that the novel viruses that they found are believed not to be harmful to humans, which is good, but I guess they had to test them before they knew that. So it's like, let's melt this little bit of ice here.
Who volunteered for that job?
Yeah. They just sort of like melt that little ice cube there and see if we die from it.
And let me touch you. How's that?
What are you doing?
That's what they were doing.
Oh, right, okay. What? I think it was probably a little bit more scientific than that.
Well, you don't know, do you? But I've said this before.
Give me a cootie shot.
They had an article in the news. It was probably attached to that same one, actually, that there was rainfall up there instead of snow, and that there were actual, everything was actually melting. The highest recorded.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? With all of this environmental stuff going on and all of these ice caps that are melting, there are going to be things like bacteria and viruses and everything that are just going to suddenly appear. Because
they've just been waiting.
They're going to be re-exposed to the environment. It is quite concerning. But there are certain things you don't want to do. Okay?
Get up early.
Because it's like, well, you don't want to get up early.
I really wanted to sleep in today, but no.
No. Well, I kind of got up early because I went out to get you something. I did,
know.
And you went, what was it you said to me? Something about, why am I so eager to get out of bed or something like that. And now you know. And what did I do? Went and got you some steak.
Which is always good.
Uh-huh.
But not only was it steak, it was super, super thin sliced steak. So I can actually make a steak sub.
Which we don't get here. We haven't got any subs. You have to make a steak sandwich.
And that nice thick bread?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, we're getting off the topic again. You know, there's been loads of different ways that people said that they can treat COVID. The famous one, of course, is Donald Trump, where he came and said that, bleach, injecting yourself with bleach, which I think he must have been joking.
Idiot.
I don't think he could have really meant that. But people have recently been using a deworming drug.
Yes, I heard about this as well.
Yeah.
For dogs, isn't it?
For cows.
Cows.
Yeah, bigger than a dog.
Really?
Well, no, there's a point to saying that, because these medications that are designed for livestock, this one being ivermectin or something like that, I'm probably pronouncing it terribly, is prepared in doses sufficient to treat a livestock, which are pretty big. It's not the size of the steak that you get on your plate. It's a lot bigger than that, okay? And so these people are actually ingesting these drugs, and there's been a load of people hospitalized because they're overdosing on this medication.
Well, I guess if they overdose on that, at least they aren't dying from COVID.
Listen, if the end result is you're dying or getting seriously ill, then it doesn't really matter how you got there, does it? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
they actually, the Mississippi State Department have actually put out, I'll read this bit actually. It says the US Food and Drug Agency has issued a warning to people not to take the anti-parasitic drug designed for livestock to treat or prevent COVID-19 following multiple reports of poisonings. It follows a surge in reports to the Mississippi State Department, even though it says Mississippi, fuck me. Mississippi State Department, I think that's probably a headline, of health, regarding cases in which people have been poisoned by ingesting the drug ivermectin, commonly used to deworm cattle. You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it, the FDA tweeted. I mean, that's some pretty, like, there's no bones about that, is there? You can't take that more than one way. They've come out totally clear. You're not a flipping horse. You're not a cow. Stop it. Seriously. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's how all public service messages should go out. More
people would probably listen to them.
Yeah. It's like we were speaking the other day about these people that are like sue because, they bought a fast food chain coffee and spilt a bit on them while they're driving and drinking that, which you shouldn't do anyway, and then suing or attempting to sue or successfully suing or whoever, because there's been several cases, the fast food chain for giving them a beverage that's hot, right? And my opinion to that is, well, then stick a really plain message on it. You are a twat if you drink this hot liquid and don't think it's that hot while you're driving and you spill it. Your own fault, sunshine. I reckon they could probably fit that around. If they tried hard, they could probably fit that.
Spiral.
Exactly. You are a twat if you drink this while driving and don't expect it to be hot. You bought a hot beverage.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, honestly, I could solve all the world's problems if I cared.
Yeah.
So, that was in Mississippi. People have been taking that drug, and it's just absolutely wild to me.
Well, it may not cure COVID, but it doesn't cure stupid neither, does it? Well, it does cure stupid, I suppose.
Well, I'll tell you what is a cure for stupid. Death.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there's some really cool things that have happened scientifically. Oh, actually, while we're talking about livestock, this has got to be the nastiest thing I've ever seen. Right? Did you hear this happened? This happened in Wisconsin. A cow was spotted in a car going through a McDonald's drive-through. Now, I apologise, by the way, if you can hear a load of motorcycles that are just driving past now in a big group of them, so I apologise if you can hear over the sound. But, in Wisconsin, a cow has been spotted going through a McDonald's drive-through in the back of the seat, and someone actually videoed the cow in the back. I mean... Was
it a big cow or a baby cow?
It's not going to be a big cow in the back of a car, is it?
Well,
and it turned out, actually, there were two of them in the back of the car. Apparently, someone had recently bought two of these little calves in a in some kind of market type thing, where they trade cattle. But I mean, why?
And they went through a drive-through at McDonald's. Did you say?
They went through a drive-through at McDonald's.
Well, I wonder if they got burgers.
Well, it's like you when you fed our bird chicken. It's just cannibalism on another level.
I can't help it if the bird liked it. Okay, not my problem. Although I must say that when I was sitting last night eating my wings, I was feeling kind of bad because the bird was like clinging to the side of the cage, like watching me.
Yeah. Well, see, that's it. You've just made her crave chicken wings now. It's not right. But I mean, what were they saying to that cattle? They just bought the calves in the market, and now they're taking them via a drive-through. What did they say? One day you'll grow into that. Ridiculous.
The cows are going, oh shit. We're not old enough yet.
There was a queue at the drive-through as well, and they were going, move along. No, it's it just makes me wonder what. But someone got a video of the cows going through the drive-through in the car. It's all of the links to all of these stories, by the way, guys, will be in the show notes as usual. You know that. Just scroll down on the podcast and you'll see it. And if you're watching it on YouTube as well, then obviously there will be the links in the show notes there as well. So yeah, onto the science stuff I was going to say. Did you know that there's obviously a space race originally to first person into space and first person to land on the moon, and then then we're looking now at all of these different companies that are trying to get people to be able to orbit the Earth, like Virgin Atlantic and SpaceX and all the rest of it.
I thought I read something yesterday that said
Virgin Galactic, sorry, that
they've had to stop because of something. I can't remember what though, so it doesn't matter.
No, thanks for interrupting me with nothing. No, they are now apparently somebody, we don't know who, has commissioned a company, Collins Aerospace, which is actually a subsidiary of the military aerospace contractor Raytheon Technologies. But someone has actually paid Collins Aerospace $2.6 million to build them a space station, essentially, that can orbit the Earth. And it'll be the first privately owned space station in orbit around the Earth. That's going to be interesting for all of these stargazers that are, looking up, and these UFO people and all the rest of it that are looking up at the skies a lot. We could end up starting to see a lot of these in the future that are orbiting the planet.
The funny thing is, who owns it? Who owns space?
I don't think you can own space, can you? But I'm sure someone will claim it.
Well, that's what I mean.
But you can't. You can't.
I think we should claim some, space.
See, that's
and we could rent it out.
I was going to say, and I apologise to all my American friends. I was going to say that's a typical American that says, "I'll plant a flag in it and it'll be mine."
But
I was going to say, but then it was us Brits that actually went over to America and planted a flag and went, "That's ours."
Yeah,
and we'll colonise that. So yeah, I shouldn't, because the Brits were probably the worst at it. We went all over the world planting our flags.
And you guys are supposed to be so polite and everything, but you weren't.
We were polite. We put a flag down.
Didn't plant any trees, did you?
No. Well, I don't know. May have. That's. Do you know what? That's one thing I'm really, really into at the moment. Is I want to
plant trees.
Yeah, I want to get a piece of land or something at some point, and I want to start growing something or making something or producing something that's going to help with the environment. I'm turning into what's that?
Environmentalist.
What's that girl? Greta.
Yeah. Greta.
Yeah, I'm turning into Greta. Honestly, bit by bit, I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going vegan or anything stupid like that, but I am. I'm being gratified.
Okay.
She's doing her thing. She's working her magic up here. I'm starting to see it. I'm waking up, man.
Okay.
I
was going to say, are you woke? But
no.
I'm
not woke, but I'm waking. So, apparently they reckon that it may be Axiom, AXIOM, that is possibly involved in this. It's a slim chance, but they reckon that this Axiom Space, which is, a contractor anyway, they think that they may be the ones that are at the bottom of this, but don't know. But either way, interesting, isn't it? It's interesting that we're now getting private companies that are going to create a space station, and then and what they want to do is they're trying to make it so that they can develop this commercial presence in space. I don't know how that's going to look in the future. I mean, are they going to be able to advertise stuff from space? Are they going to be able to run some other kind of broadband? I know we've got that those satellites.
Fucking long cables.
At least you think you're funny. No.
I was just thinking, like, you can't even claim a slice of space above the country you're in because we're turning, so you don't even get
That's mine. That's mine.
You don't even... I mean, there must be a way, right?
No, you don't want to claim space. If you put a flag there, I tell you it's going to float off.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, you've got the... I guess they'd have to do it some sort of way like they do the sea, where you've got, like, certain areas that belong to certain countries, and then...
Don't even start this conversation. It would be horrific if we started claiming space.
But you can already buy a star.
I know, but I'm sorry. If you buy a
isn't that
star...
kind of claiming space anyway?
Yeah, but let me tell you something. You're never going to get to go there. It's a ball of burning gas. You know? You're not going to.
Okay,
and also on stars, their winters are switched to opposite seasons.
Don't even fuck with me on that today, buddy. No.
Sorry, I got that. Topical joke for those who listen regularly. Okay. Talking about space, did you know that the atmosphere on Titan is actually quite unique? Titan, obviously, being one of the moons that are in our solar system.
What moon?
It's a Jupiter moon, Titan, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. See, you've asked me now.
What about it, anyway?
I'm sure it's Jupiter, but now you've made me look idiot. Yeah, because this just says one of the solar systems. I'm sure it's Jupiter. If it's not
Fine.
Jupiter,
What
someone
about
just
the
put
moon?
a comment in and let us know, will you, please? So anyway, they've managed to recreate the atmosphere on Titan in a glass cylinder here on Earth. And what they did was they just took droplets of water, liquid water, okay?
Liquid, yeah.
And they turned the temperature down. Well, no, because you can get solid water. They turned the temperature down to minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit.
In a teeny little tube?
Not in a teeny little tube. They say in a glass cylinder. I don't know how big the cylinder is, okay? I'm sure you could have some fun with it. But
what are you trying to say?
I'm joking. Anyway, they turned the temperature down in this cylinder, okay, to minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, and all of a sudden it started producing these other molecules, the molecules that are found in the atmosphere on Titan, proving that obviously the water was the founding sort of body, if you like, on that moon. And obviously with the temperature of space and everything as cold as it was, hey presto, this is what happens. Well, no, but it wasn't. It's gone beyond that. Let me just find the bit on here that says. So it says, as part of an experiment that showcased during a meeting of the American Chemical Society, Titan's unique atmosphere was effectively recreated in small glass cylinders. Liquid water was placed in the cylinders. The researchers turned the temperature down to minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, the known temperature on Titan, and then studied what happened. As expected, the results were nothing short of amazing. 2 molecules appeared in the cylinders during the experiment, including, I'm going to get this totally wrong, acetronitrile and propionitrile. The researchers describe these molecules and say they occur predominantly in one crystalline form that creates highly polar nanosurfaces, which could serve as templates for the self-assembly of other molecules of prebiotic interest. So in other words, you can grow bacteria from it. So, I mean, hey, I think that's amazing that they've been able to do that. Those 2 molecules, the acetronitrile and propionitrile, are 2 molecules found during the Cassini mission that explored Saturn and its moons. Saturn. There you go, Saturn.
Saturn
and its
for
moons.
all you Americans.
For Saturn. What's wrong with that?
Saturn.
Saturn. I Saturn it and it hurt my ass. Saturn.
Saturn what?
Saturn 5. I don't know, Saturn. For 13 years, confirming the experiment successfully created Titan's atmosphere on Earth. Anyway, the full article is there in the show notes. Have a look. It is a lot more interesting than I made it sound. And you all right? Mm-hmm. Okay. You got it on you today, didn't you? Okay. Friday the 13th, y'all. We had a Friday the 13th in September, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Did you know that Friday the 13th is actually the whole bad luck associated with it is
because of Judas.
Okay, well, I was going to get to that bit, but yes, okay, you're right. Go on then.
Well, because he was the 13th disciple, wasn't he? And he was the one that, like, blabbed and
he
got
was the,
Jesus.
He was the 13th person to arrive at the Last Supper.
Yeah.
That's what it says in here. Yeah.
He was a disciple.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he turned on Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's why he's bad.
Well, we know that's why he's bad. How does that equate to Friday the 13th?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you for your input.
Was that the day that he did it?
Was that the day that he did it? On Friday the 13th? No, 13 is become synonymous with bad luck because of that 13th disciple or whatever, 13th person to arrive at the Last Supper.
So baker's dozens probably aren't good, are they?
Well, see, if you're a baker, it's probably
especially
good luck.
If you cook it on if you bake it on Friday, you probably don't want to eat it until Saturday.
Well, it tends to only be associated in the Western world. This whole Friday the 13th thing, predominantly UK, US, Canada, and some other parts of Europe. And obviously, out of that, you've got the horror movies that have come around it as well. But actually, in other parts of the world, they are more superstitious about other dates. Okay, so in China, for instance, it's April the 4th. And that's considered unlucky because the Chinese word for the number 4 sounds really similar to the word for death. Don't ask me what it is. And April, of course, is the 4th month. And therefore, apart from in Australia, because they go the other way around. No, okay. So April the 4th, 4th of the 4th, that's why they consider it bad luck.
They'll be shitting
many hotel
like 2044 or something like that, won't they?
Yeah. The hotel elevators in China, many of them don't have a button for the 4th floor. And hotels in this country don't tend to have a number 13 hotel room. I mean, some do, but not. You'd be surprised how many don't. Spain and Greece, it's Tuesday the 13th. 13 again, obviously, but the Greeks have a superstition over the day Tuesday because their word for the day is triti, T-R-I-T-I, which also means third. And as the saying goes, bad thing comes in threes. The fall of Constantinople...
That's true.
The fall of Constantinople is also thought to have taken place on Tuesday, the April the 13th.
So why is Friday the 13th on a Friday?
It's not always on a Friday.
Friday the 13th is always on a Friday.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So what was your question? Why is Friday the 13th on a Friday?
Why is it Friday that's bad? I mean, I get the 13, but why is it a Friday? Was it because it was a Friday?
I will...
I mean, we have Good Friday.
We do have Good Friday.
So why is it a Friday?
Okay, I'm reading. Just talk amongst yourself for a minute.
Oh, nice.
Come on in. I'm reading.
You can see how unprepared we are to do our podcast today.
Right, okay. Why is Friday the 13th considered unlucky? There we go. So, like you originally said, the exact origins have probably been lost to time, but many believe that it started in the Middle Ages and is rooted in the crucifixion of Jesus. He's said to have been betrayed on a Friday by Judas, who's also thought to have been the 13th guest to sit down at the Last Supper. That's not the only association with number 13 has with bad dinner parties, as in Norse mythology, a banquet of the gods was ruined by its 13th guest, Loki the trickster, who caused the world to be plunged into darkness. Friday also has its own history of being associated with bad luck. In Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, written in the 14th century, he wrote, "And on a Friday fell all this mischance." So yeah, there's a couple of, I'm not going to read the whole thing, go and have a look at the article, but there's a couple of reasons in there why Fridays, but it tends to be related to sort of theatre, literature, and religion to a certain degree, but it's sort of a culmination of things rather than something massive that happened, on a Friday. So Italy is Friday the 17th, and that is because the origins, they believe, can be traced back to the writing of the number 17 in Roman numerals, which is obviously XVII, yeah? X10V5II. Yeah.
Why is that such a bad thing?
Well, because if you use XVII, you can sort of jiggle the letters around to make VIXI. I know we're clutching a little bit, but that translates to "I have lived," very much implying death. So that's why.
I'm not dead yet, and I lived. I lived last year and the year before that, and I lived when I came out of my mother, and I've been living.
You're so lucky to have lasted as long as you have.
Probably.
September the 9th in Japan. Similar to China and April the 4th, September the 9th is considered bad luck in Japan due to how the word for the number 9 sounds in the language. Japanese word for the number 9 is, again, I'm going to butcher this, Kyu. KYU, sounds very similar to the word for torture or suffering, making the 9th day of the 9th month to be one of the most cautious of. India is August the 8th. They believe the number 8 is unlucky, and obviously August being the 8th month and the 8th day, it's because the number 8 is the number of the Hindu god Shani, the god of karma, but also breakups and strife.
Okay.
So yeah, there's that's a really interesting article. Again, gives a lot more information than what I've told you on here. But I just found it quite interesting that there are, each country has its own date that it is superstitious about.
Well, but I mean that's where a lot of the stories in that come from with different cultures, isn't it? Like
from dates and historical.
Well, I mean, like here or in the UK or whatever, the whole believing in fairies things, and where you there's that one where they say that you've had this baby and it's a changeling, and you would take it. And so somebody stole your child, and you've got this changeling, and they, so all of these sorts of superstitious sort of things, they are different from culture to culture, aren't they? Yeah. But there does tend to be a lot of times, an element of.
I'm trying to move you so you're in the middle because you're looking at me and leaning over. Go on.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, so it's not really that different if you think about it, because it's same sort of superstition, but with each country's own little twist to it or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. On to something that I found quite good actually. There's a frog. Okay, we're on to frogs now.
Nice transition.
Yeah. There's a frog that comes from Lake Titicaca, right? Titicaca, I think, is a brilliant word because obviously you got titty, which is a great
And
word in
poopy.
itself, and poopy, because caca is shit.
Are you sure?
And I just think this is brilliant. So there's this frog. I'll try and get a photo of it and put it on the screen for you about now.
Look at it.
But the frog
Isn't it cool?
has the nickname the scrotum frog because its body resembles a scrotum because of how sort of, yes, you heard it right, guys, for anybody driving in their car wondering, should I be driving my window down today? Yes, we are talking scrotum frogs. This frog apparently looks like a sack.
Yeah, with like really pointy hands.
Yeah, no, but it's the fact of how wrinkly the sort of skin is and all that sort of stuff that it that's the name it's been given. And I just wonder, what we got two. I'll put the picture up I've got here of two of them, one on top of the other, and I just wonder what his chat up line is.
Well, I don't know, but if your balls looked like that, I would not be with you.
No, especially if they had eyes.
Just saying.
Yeah. No, but I wonder what his chat up line would have been to that to that frog, sort of like, hi, I'm Ballsack from Titty Shit. What would he, how you doing?
I don't know.
I was
not a ball, so I can't or a frog.
I was disappointed in being given the name Shelly. I mean, I've got used to it over time. Getting to my age, you have to get used to it. But it.
You get used to it young because you get beat up on the playground.
I could have, yeah, exactly. But Ballsack would have been a worse one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has now this scrotum frog from Lake Titicaca, should I say, is now in Chester Zoo. There's one of them in Chester Zoo. No, I said late.
Oh.
Yeah. Is now in Chester Zoo. So, yeah, you can actually see 20 of the scrotum frogs on display.
Well, good thing they're on pairs.
You don't have a pair of scrotums. You have a pair of balls in one scrotum. You don't have a pair of scrotums, okay? Don't let the people on here start thinking I got two scrotums. That's not how I roll. All right? I'm a one man scrotum. No, I'm a one scrotum man. I'm a one man scrotum.
Oh God, you're gonna give me a heart attack.
Well, at least you have lived. So anyway, yeah, we better get on to the actual proper stuff of this show and actually
good plan, because I'm baking
and actually pass it over to the amazing Ruth Roper Wylde. And
don't forget to watch out for the clothes change.
Look for the clothes change. Yeah, honestly, these people that we're getting on the show now, they're starting to get a little bit kind of like big for their britches. I think, and they used to just come on and be, I'm so pleased to be on the Weird, Wacky, Wonderful Stories podcast, and now they're like, no, I got to do a clothes change in the middle. Yeah.
She's trying to be Superman.
Yeah, exactly. But so. Have a listen to these guys. They're fantastic, and they do a lot of the research that we don't really. We just read really interesting, funny stuff from online. Don't forget you can
stuff.
or just stuff, yeah, or just talk rubbish. Don't forget you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are available on all of your favourite podcast apps. You must know that because you're listening to us somewhere, but just to let you know, we're other places as well, and we're also available on YouTube. Thanks once again to Dave Pettibone for supporting us via our Buy a Coffee campaign. And if you want to do the same, you can look in the show notes and you can find a link to help us out there. Greatly appreciated. It helps us carry on the show. Once again, thank you very much, guys, and don't forget to stay weird, wacky, and ball-like.
Oh, yeah, nice. Wonderful.
No. Oh, yeah, wonderful, yeah. Okay, bye, guys.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all keeping well. Here's my monthly segment on everything paranormal. My name is Ruth Roper Wylde, and I'm an author who writes about ghosts and the spooky. So I was having a look at what I might talk about this week, and I found a video taken by a security camera in La King's Confectionery in Galveston, Texas, where the security camera is faced into the kitchen at a row of stainless steel looking type commercial fridges. And one of the fridge doors suddenly pops slightly and opens, hesitates a moment, and then swings open just by about 6 inches or so. And obviously they're ascribing this to ghostly activity. I've watched the video several times, and it is actually possible that that's paranormal, but it's also possible that the seal on the fridge door just didn't quite catch right, and after a little while sort of popped itself open, and then the weight of the door swung it. And it made me think about, whenever you're ghost hunting, how important it is to try and replicate anything that happens to see whether you can find an ordinary explanation for it. In other words, the importance of debunking when you're actually out doing an investigation. And that made me think of a couple of things that happened to me recently on, one of them a while ago, but one of them recently on investigations. So some time ago, hubby and I went to a place called Bourton in Northamptonshire that has an amazing ruined church on a Sunday afternoon, quite a sort of thundery afternoon. And we walked around the church with our 2 Belgian Malinois that we had at the time, one of whom at the time was quite young, only about 2 years old, I suppose, and extremely bouncy and extremely boisterous. Now, this particular church is supposed to be haunted by your usual headless highwaymen, but also children playing. So we did some calling out, which is where you ask the spirit to interact with you. And in calling out, we said to them, we've got 2 lovely dogs with us that love children. Feel free to interact with the dogs. You can play with the dogs if you want to. Well, at this point, our 2 lunatics were charging around, especially the younger one. And the younger one, Red, suddenly stopped dead in his tracks, a good 50 yards or so away from us, sat down facing away from us, and leaned as if he was leaning against somebody's legs and getting his head scratched. We've never ever seen him do that whilst out running about on a walk, only ever when actually interacting with a human. Of course, it only lasted a couple of seconds, and then he was off, up, bounding around again. And hubby and I sort of looked at each other in amazement. It's like, that was really weird. So I said, well, you call out again, I'll get my camera ready. And we called out again, and to our astonishment, he did it again. So we called out to the spirits and said, come on, you can play with him. He really likes to have his ears scratched like that. Do it again. And again, quite some distance away from us, he suddenly sat down and leaned again as if he was leaning against somebody and held his head up as if he was getting ear scratches. I took loads of photographs of it and didn't get anything in the actual photographs other than a picture of my dog sitting facing away from me. But it did make me think of, that's why it's so important to try and replicate it, because obviously a dog behaving like that twice is really quite unusual. So anyway, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had a loose Sunday all to myself. Hubby was working, so I thought I'd pop back to Bourton Church. It's a little bit of a drive out from where we live, and we only have the 1 dog now. We've sadly lost one since. So we still have Red, the younger one, and he's now 7 years old. Now, on the way, I happened to turn down a particular bit of road that I've never driven down before. I was taking a different route. And I suddenly came across another ruined church. Well, of course, I had to stop and have a look. Now, I've looked it up on the map since and looked it up to see what its history is. And that's actually called St John's Church Tower. And it's at a place in Little Brinkton in Northamptonshire. And it is just a church tower stood on its own, still intact, but pretty much disused by the look of it, although a note says it's still consecrated. It's surrounded by a low stone wall and overgrown with trees and bramble and bush all round it. But you can still walk in to the actual grounds via a small wooden gate in the brick wall. So I pulled the car over, got out, got the dog out, and we went through the gate and into the grounds and took a couple of photographs of the this tower. Now, apparently, the church was originally built in the mid-1850s by the Spencer family, as in Lady Diana Spencer, later to become Princess of Wales. So her ancestral family built the original church back in the mid-1800s. And then the body of the church was demolished, I don't know why, in the mid-1900s, so around about 1940s, 1950s, something like that, leaving just the tower standing. So there I am taking photographs of the tower, and I'd carefully shut the gate behind me as I entered because I'd got the dog and I was going to let him off the lead for a couple of minutes. I took the photographs, and I was very aware of a very heavy, sort of sombre, dour feeling about the place. It just felt kind of claustrophobic, even though it was, obviously open air. So I took my photographs. Dog wandered around sniffing for a few minutes, and then I thought, right, I'll crack on and get to Boughton Church. Turned round to leave, and there was the gate standing open that I'd closed behind me as I entered. So I stood and looked at it for a few moments and thought, I'm sure I shut that. I wonder how it's managed to open itself. I wonder if this is something paranormal happening. So I walked up to it, closed it, took a couple of photographs of it, again, to see if anything came up in the photographs later on, and then stood and watched it for several minutes. I'd watched it for quite a while and nothing was happening, and I decided to test how easy it was to swing it open. So I touched it with my hand very gently and just pulled it very gently towards me. And it was actually quite difficult to move because of the way the grass was grown up around the foot of it. Everything was quite overgrown in that churchyard. A very disused feel about it. So I was starting to think, I think this might have, been a paranormal thing that's opened this gate. So I closed it again, having dragged it with my fingers slightly, and stood and watched it for several more minutes, when a really strong gust of wind came and blew the gate open right in front of me. At which point I was able to think, well, that's obviously what happened, although it's not a particularly windy day today. And if asked, I would have said, oh no, the wind wasn't strong enough to pull the gate. I stayed there and waited long enough to just check, and was able to debunk there was nothing paranormal. It was just that every now and again there was a gust of wind strong enough to blow that gate open, despite the fact that it was restricted a bit by overgrown vegetation. And I think for me that just drives home how important it is when you're doing an investigation that you take a moment when something happens to check it and double check it and wait and see if it happens. Very often on these, haunted television programmes you see, the moment something happens, everybody starts screaming and running around. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And then they rush off to view their camera footage without taking those few minutes to stop and wait and listen and look and see whether anything happened. Anyway, we drove off from there and carried on to Boughton Church. And when I got there, it had changed quite a bit from when we'd last visited, because the last time it was quite overgrown, a lot of ivy over the remaining brickwork. There's very little brickwork remaining there, or stonework, I should say. And all the graves and everything were very overgrown with nettles. Whereas this time, it's all been mowed. It's really in quite tidy condition. They've pulled all the vegetation down off the brickwork itself, obviously part of a conservation action. So whilst it's still a lovely sight, it's lost that kind of mysterious, slightly abandoned feel it used to have. But nevertheless, I got out of the car and walked all the way around it. And I walk very slowly with a walking stick. I have mobility problems. So I let Red off the lead, and he was charging about the place, not quite as energetically as he did when he was 2 years old, but nevertheless he was having fun and running around. And I walked round, and there is actually a holy water spring that springs out from under this church. It's thought of as a holy spring. So Red had a drink of lovely cold spring water out of that. And then we walked back up to where the gateway is, which is quite a steep little pathway up to the gateway. And having reached the top, I thought I would just sit for a while and feel the atmosphere, see what it felt like. So I sat there. I actually sat on a broken bit of tombstone and just absorbed the atmosphere for a while. And after a while, I did a bit of calling out again, saying, you've met Red before. If you want to play with him again, you can. Red at this point had got bored and was lying down. And he suddenly stood up, rushed off down the hill on his own, back down towards where this spring was, and went and fetched a stick he'd been playing with earlier, without me asking him to or anything. And that's not so unusual in itself. He will remember that he was playing with something and run off to get it quite often. He came running back up the hill, all pleased with himself that he'd got his stick. Now, normally when he does that, he comes running back to me with whatever it is that he's been playing with to bring it back to me, even though I haven't asked for it. Hi again. I'm just recording this extra little segment because apparently when I sent the video across for the Weird, Wacky, Wonderful crew to do their magic with it, the last little bit was missing and I left you all with a cliffhanger. Was, of course, entirely deliberate, left it just so that Shelly and Bella would have to wait the whole weekend before they got the ending of that story, whereas the rest of you all get to see it straight away, so hey. So apparently I got up to the bit where Red was just running up the hill with a stick. So there he was running up the hill. I've held my hand out for it, thinking he'd bring it back to me, wanting to play with it like he normally would if he'd thought of going to get a toy that he'd left behind, or a stick or a ball, whatever. But much to my surprise, he actually just ran straight past me, further up the hill to where there was a flat piece of grass with nothing on it, dropped the stick, and then stood there, kind of looking down at the stick and then looking up expectantly, as if he was expecting somebody stood there to throw it. And when it wasn't thrown after a minute or two, he kind of got bored and wandered off from it. So I called him to me and sent him to go and get the stick, which he did, and he brought it to me. But he didn't seem very interested in throwing it, or, me throwing it so he could play. He didn't seem that bothered to want to play with me. And he just went off and took it and laid down with it and started chewing it. And although I waited several more minutes, I couldn't get that to be replicated, what had happened. So I can't say for absolutely certain that was something paranormal. It just seemed a bit odd, because normally, if it occurred to him he'd left a toy behind and he went running off to get it, he'd bring it back to me to play with. And it just felt like he'd brought it back to someone else to play with this time. So who knows? Might have been, might not. But it's the point of trying to debunk that actually counts. So anyway, don't forget, if you've got anything that you want to share for the next book, contact me on my email address, wa-1400@outlook.com. And until then, have a great weekend. Bye.
Hi, and welcome to the Weird, Wacky, Wonderful. And this is your host, Richard Lennie, speaking to you from somewhere on planet Earth. Today I want to start off by talking about a 6-year-old girl who went missing from her home in North Devon about a week or so ago. Now, interesting story this, because I think it does go into the missing 411 case. Now, if you're not familiar with the missing 411, that's basically where people, generally in America and Canada, go missing mysteriously, either in national parks, forests, or from their own home. And in this case, this is what happened. This was a 6-year-old girl who was in her home. She went to bed, I believe, about 8 o'clock. Her parents put her to bed. Everything was fine. They live, by the way, between, I think it's 2 farms. It's in a rural area, so they don't have any neighbours for a few miles. And later on that night, they went to check on her, I think, before they went to bed. I'm not sure on the time. I don't think they really stated that, but I would imagine it was late because it was dark. And the bed was empty. So, of course, alarm bells start to ring. They check the house. They can't find her. She's 6 years old. They don't give a name. But she was a girl, 6 years in age. And as soon as they found out that she was nowhere to be seen in the home, they obviously checked the grounds, I assume. They then call the police. So the police are very good. They get straight on it. They get cadaver dogs out, bloodhounds, and they put a helicopter in the air with FLIR. Now, if you're not sure what FLIR is, it stands for Forward-Looking Infrared Camera. So basically what FLIR does is it can see in the dark and it looks for heat signature. So of course, if you're looking for a person, they're going to have heat, so that it will show up on the camera and they'll stick out like a sore thumb. So that's what they put up. And I'm now going to read you the article I've put up on my Facebook page. And it says, a missing 411 case, ? A 6-year-old girl missing from a home in North Devon, UK, is found in a ditch over a half-mile area, 0.8 kilometres away from her home, at night. I wonder if she had any GHB in her system when they found her. She looked very groggy as she woke up. You can even hear the policeman mentioning it on the radio. Now, if you don't know what GHB is, basically it's a date drug. People use it if they want to make girls sort of drunk and groggy. They put it in their drinks in nightclubs, and then they basically take them out of the club and then take them home and do whatever with them. Now, this, unfortunately, is found in basically every person that's gone missing in a 411 case, but it's only found when the parents have asked for it to be located, because they check for, I think it was 120 odd different drugs in the system. But believe it or not, GHB is not one of them. So if the parents ask for it to be checked, then obviously they will check for it. I don't know if they have to pay for that, but anyway, it's nothing. It's not a drug that they just check for every time they find a person. So in this case, I'm wondering if she had it in her, because she was found in a ditch, which of course is part of the missing 411. When a person's found, they're normally found in a ditch, and usually by water and granite. So she was found in a field, basically half a mile away from her home, in a ditch, and I've put it up on my Facebook page so you can watch the video. And if you watch it, they find her, she's lying down, and her shoes are next to her. So again, the missing 411, where their clothes are neatly stacked with the shoes on top. Well, I believe she did have clothes on. See, the story is very vague. We don't know whether she was completely naked or not, or whether she had some garments on her. We do believe she did, but her shoes were definitely next to her, and you can see it in the FLIR images. And you watch as she gets up, she looks drunk. So obviously the helicopter must have woken her. So that's one thing. So obviously she's going to be tired when she wakes up. She's going to be like, oh, where am I? But she does look very unstable on her feet. And if you listen very carefully, the policeman actually does mention this in the helicopter, because you can hear them talking all the time. And her shoes are next to her. Now, don't you think that is strange? We've got a 6-year-old girl who went to bed about 8 o'clock at night, and then we don't exactly know what time she left the house or how she left the house. But I believe there was no front doors open, so everything was secure. I don't know whether the front door was locked, by the way. They didn't mention that. But she went to bed at 8 o'clock, and then the next thing we know is the parents are there looking for her. She's not in her bedroom. She's nowhere to be found. And she's half a mile away in a field. Now, remember, this is a rural area, okay? That means, guys, no street lights. That means pitch black. So, how the hell is she going to find her way around? She doesn't have night vision on her. She's 6 years of age. I mean, most 6-year-olds are going to be scared of the dark anyway. She's a girl. Is she going to go walking half a mile away from her lovely, warm, comfortable home with the teddy bears in her bed? Of course she's not. So what made her get out of that bed? What made her go that half a mile from her home into the open air in the middle of the night, and then take her shoes off, and then lie down next to her shoes and fall asleep? I mean, you just couldn't make this up, you just couldn't make this up. So I think it definitely is in a missing 411 case. And it's on my Facebook page. go over and have a look at it. You know, it's a very interesting story. That it's very vague. They don't tell you an awful lot because she's 6 years of age. We've got no names. We don't know the whole story, but we know enough. We can put it together and we can see that it's definitely a very strange situation. What makes a 6-year-old girl get out of her bed and go half a mile away from her home? You know what I mean? What was she chasing? Ice cream? Of course she wasn't. It was pitch black out there. You'd open a door. Say you lived in a rural area and you had a 6-year-old son or 7-year-old son, and you open the door and it's basically pitch black out there, and you said to him, "Go on then, off you go." I mean, is he going to go? Of course he's not. He's going to run back upstairs and go into his bed, isn't he? You know. So something or someone is making our children leave our houses and go out into the middle of basically no man's land, and then they fall asleep. Now, I'm grabbing for straws here, but I reckon, and this is only a guess, but I think I'm right. I reckon if, for example, her parents hadn't checked on her again after they put her to bed, say, for argument's sake, she went to bed at 8 o'clock, everything's fine, they go to bed about midnight, say 1 o'clock in the morning, they don't check on her again, they assume she's in her bedroom, maybe the bedroom door's closed or whatever. They go to bed, right? Okay, now it's morning. It's say 7 o'clock. They get up. They start to make breakfast. Oh, where's our daughter? She isn't down yet. She's normally down by now. They go upstairs. Her bedroom's empty. Her bed's not been slept in for hours. They then call the police. The police then get the cadaver dogs and the bloodhounds. They then put the helicopter in the air. And they don't find her. She's gone. And I think that's what would have happened. I think if her parents hadn't gone in later on that night to check on her to see if she was okay for whatever reason, just to check on her, like you do, periodically, you go in and you make sure your son or daughter's okay. They don't need water or they don't need the toilet or whatever. If they hadn't have done that, I honestly think they would never have found her. I think she would have been gone. That's my own personal opinion, but I think she would have been gone. And that would have been it. Because what I think happened was whatever was taking our children, whatever this is that's taking them, they put her to sleep there, and I think they were going to come back for her. Maybe they were disturbed, or maybe they went to do something else to get someone else, and then they were going to come back for her. They put a reserve sticker on her. Do you understand what I mean? And they were going to come back for her later on that night. But thank God that her parents obviously found out sooner rather than later that she was missing. We got to her in time. So I think, luckily that saved her life. Her parents saved her life. Because I don't honestly think she would have been there in the morning when they did that search. So I honestly don't think that would have happened. I think that, she would have been gone. Maybe she would have been found a few months later in that place, in that ditch, but she wouldn't have been alive. She would have been dead. So either way you look at it, either she would never have been found, or she would have been found where she was found, but a few months later, dead, with her clothes stacked up beside her. Because the shoes were already taken off. You see, it's the shoes that I don't get. Would a 6-year-old girl take her shoes off and then fall? I don't know. It's really bizarre. So that's that case. It's under police helicopter finds missing 6-year-old girl asleep in Devon Field. And the weird thing about this, I was actually quite near this place only literally days before that happened. How weird is that? Literally right by it, right by where she went missing. Yeah, bizarre. I've also put up above the video, I'll read it to you. Please check out the video below this post, which is that video I was talking about, on a 6-year-old girl who went missing in the West Country on the 17th of August and was found over half a mile away from her home in a ditch, asleep. We are the third, I'll repeat that, we are the third in the world after America and Canada for people who go missing under mysterious circumstances. We are number 3 in the world. And usually always found dead, if found at all. So, of course, it's not a good outcome. Now, taking into account the size of these three countries, America, Canada, and the UK, we basically come out on top. So we are really number one, and America and Canada are behind us because of the size, of course, compared to those other two countries. With the amount of people that go missing, we really are number one, not number three. So please check out on your child at night. You know, when you've put your child to sleep, just periodically, I mean, you might do this anyway, and I'm sure you probably do. I used to do it with my daughter and my son. You know, you put them to bed, and then an hour or so later, you just like open the door, you know, just make sure they're still okay and they're asleep and they're fine. But please, please, please do this every single night. Don't just, you know, think, oh, I'll leave it tonight, I'm sure they're fine. Every night, check on them. Make sure they're in their beds. Make sure they're asleep. Make sure they're safe. It's so, so important. I know it sounds crazy. I know you probably think this guy's a nut, you know. But it's, you know, it's best to be safe than sorry, isn't it? I mean, nothing to do with this product, by the way. Okay, I'm not endorsing it or anything in that respect. I'm just telling you, there is this wristband that you can buy. It's just under £200, so it's not phone to track it. And then if you go into a wooded area or a forest or anywhere where you think there could be danger, you could also put it on your child's wrist as well. You don't have to wear it all the time. You know, you just put it on when you feel like they need to have it on. But I'm just saying it's something you can put on them when they're asleep and stuff, you know, and at least then, you know, you've got that as well as a sort of backup. So if you do live in a rural area especially, this is very important. I think it's more for people who live in rural areas, okay? This is very important. So if you're listening to this program right now and you live in a rural area, I think it's very important that you get your child a Buddy Connect bracelet. That's what it's called, okay? BUDDI, Buddy Connect bracelet, to wear while she or he is asleep. And you can also use them, like I said, for when you go into the woods, like a forest or something like that. You think that, you know, there could be problems there too. Put it on their wrist. At least then you've got that backup, haven't you? So, which I think is very, very good. A couple of £100, but hey, come on, a couple of £100 to save a child's life. It's got to be worth it, right? And anyway, it's peace of mind. So, you know, check it up on, just Google it, okay? Buddy Connect, BUDDI. It's the cheapest thing I could find, but it's quality and it's easy to wear. You know, it's unobtrusive, and the child's going to not even know they got it on them after a while. One last thing I want to talk about quickly is a video. In fact, it's under that missing 6-year-old girl, and it's called The End. And it's a picture of, or it's a photograph actually, of a jet with contrail. Okay, so click on that. It's a video. Again, this is on my Facebook page. And at 0.13, so 13 seconds into the video, if you click it on that exact 13 seconds, you will see a black oval object racing across the screen from right to left. So basically, it starts off with blue sky. Someone is videoing a jet with a contrail, and then you'll see from right to left a black oval object flying right across. And then after that, this jet seems to fly through, or is near, a load of ejected spheres. I mean, loads and loads of them. So I've written, at 0.13, a black oval object is seen racing across the screen from right to left. This could have been the sphere carrier, because after that you will see loads of ejected spheres in the sky, and this plane is very close to them. It seems to be flying through the sphere field. I don't think it is, by the way. I think it's probably, you know, a couple of 1,000 feet above it, because obviously the angle it's at. But even so, imagine if it did fly through that field of spheres. It would have been game over for the plane, definitely. So check that out as well, okay? UFO orbs past plane. UFO orbs past plane, lots of them. It's what it's actually on the YouTube, and it says The End. So check that out as well. I think you'll find it fascinating. Normally, I've done a lot of research on this. I've been researching these spheres for, God knows, I don't know, 12 years now. And we think these tubes eject them. Sometimes you see a tube in the sky and you think, how the hell is that thing staying up? It's revolving. I think it's usually clockwise. And it's just hovering there in the sky at about 15,000 feet. Well, these are the things that eject the spheres. But in this case, it's a black oval object. But we think that's what it was. It ejected this particular load of spheres. But anyway, check it out. You'll find it's very interesting. And I think that's all there is for this month. Sorry it's gone on a bit long again, but I can't stress enough about, looking after your children. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie or something like that. But I've got to stress again that we are number 3 in the world, but basically we're number 1 in the world for people going missing. Mysteriously, I'm talking about. And I think it's so important, if that's the case especially, that you protect your child as best as you can. And you've got to do something, because it could be your child next. And on that note, I wish you a good weekend and a good bank holiday. And this is Richard Lennie signing off. Bye-bye.